You're listening to the Ask Drone U podcast. You ask, we answer your drone questions. Whether you're here to turn your passion into profit or you simply fly for fun, we're a community of learners and teachers who aspire to achieve greatness. We are
Drone U.
Hey everyone, welcome to another epic episode of Ask Drone U.
Yes, indeed. That's Paul, and I'm Rob, and this is episode number 483.
So many episodes. Holy cow.
Paul still likes me. Maybe not so much. Oh, well, I set that one up for you. That was an easy one. Out of the park, out of the stadium, as a matter of fact. We do thank you for hanging out with us today.
We definitely do. We also appreciate the support from DroneBase. You know, DroneBase is really focused on connecting pilots. They want to ensure that new pilots have great opportunities to really turn their passion into a true profession. They've come a long way since their inception. Pilots have flown missions 30 countries, 50 states in the United States. And there's just so much. And they're constantly working on their platform. They're constantly growing their team and offering more and more jobs. They're aggressively marketing. And if you're not on DroneBase, you may be missing out on opportunities yourself. So check out go.dronebase.com/drone.
/drone U.
Thank you.
So to repeat.
So that's go.dronebase.com/drone U.
You got it.
That's a lot.
It is a lot. That's okay.
It is.
People can do that.
Definitely.
They're capable.
I think they'd want to.
Anyways, we've seen some good information coming out from our community about people that have been flying drone-based jobs, and not for everybody, but we think it's for a lot of folks, and so check them out.
Definitely.
Cool.
Sorry, I'm getting lost here because I keep coming back to this whole reporting illegal operators thing. It's a big issue. I want to do a produced episode on it, and it seems that my opinion seems to evolve over time. That's what I'm sitting here thinking about.
Yes, it does. So we all know Paul's passionate. He's enthusiastic. And that
Loud.
passion leads to once you've grabbed hold of something, it's hard to let go of that until it's resolved.
Yes.
Right? And so sometimes we're trying to rein you back in a little bit, but that's just because you're passionately thinking about something else that's important to you. So
well, I just
totally get that.
Love everything about drones.
I know. And things are moving forward. Things are moving in the right direction. Things are progressing.
I'm sorry. I'm not sorry.
No one's asking you to be sorry.
No, get it? I said I'm sorry. I'm not sorry.
You're sorry that you're not sorry?
That's right.
Yeah. Okay.
Anyway,
I don't even think you need to be sorry that you're not sorry.
I think that I need to go fly. So let's get to this question.
Let's just start it.
Okay, this is Rick from Utah. Brand new drone operator, looking at setting up my business. It's probably more geared towards Rob, since he's the CPA. Trying to decide how to set up my business. I'm thinking an LLC is the best option. Do you agree with that? Number one. Number two, do you know if you have to file quarterly tax returns on that? I'm not quite sure on that. I have a feeling that you do, and so I'm just wondering if that's true. Number three, is there any benefit to obtaining a Nevada or a Delaware corporation? I heard that if you're going to do some out-of-state work, it might be better to file an LLC out of those states. But I've also heard it's a big hassle, and you should probably just use the state that you're in. So anyway, love the show. Love to hear more about these things. Thanks a lot.
Thanks for the question, Rick. Appreciate it. And guys, if you have a question, head over to askdroneu.com. Get it in. Like this question, if you have a question, I think a lot of other people are wondering the same thing. And so don't hesitate. Be the one that gets it in so that everybody else can get the answer that you'd like to have as well. So, I don't know. What do you think, Paul? Is LLC the right answer?
I am not the professional. That's you. So I have no idea.
No. So the way that
Do you want me to do the disclaimer? We are not attorneys. We are not tax advisors, and none of this information can be construed as legal advice. Thank you.
Well done.
Thank you.
Well done.
That's what happens when you grow up with lawyers.
Yeah, that's right. That just kind of rolls off the tongue. You say it in your sleep. No, it is a good question. And one of the things that we can't do is say it is the best, because the way you asked the question, Rick, was, is the LLC my best option? We don't know that because we don't know your whole situation. What we can say is that it's a good option, and for a lot of people, it very well may be the very best option. LLCs are great, and the primary reason that you're going to want an LLC, I think most of you know this, but it bears repeating, and that is to protect you from liability. And some folks kind of misunderstand that, and they might say, well, for example, if I try to get a loan, a bank's not going to give the LLC a loan anyways. If it's a brand new LLC that doesn't have a history of doing business, I'm going to have to do that personally.
Oh, unless you personally guarantee some sort of what is it called?
Well, you're personally guaranteeing the note.
Collateral, excuse me.
Yeah, or you can put up collateral, but then again, even if you have good collateral, so for example, let's say you're buying a building or you're buying an office building to run your new drone business in that's doing really well, and you want to do it through your LLC, even though you have a building and even though you're putting money down, so you have collateral, the bank is not going to, in the vast majority of cases, lend to the entity. You're either going to have to personally guarantee it if they will put it in the LLC's name, or they're going to make you do it personally. So yeah, that you're not going to be protected from that liability by the LLC. But the lender or a bank is not the only kind of creditor that could come after you if something goes wrong. So the LLC is really protecting you from all those other things, people that sell you stuff, people that you buy stuff from, things that come up. So then people say, but I can just have insurance and then I don't need an LLC. Well, insurance is good and you need insurance. You definitely want to have liability insurance, both just general business insurance, as well as to protect you from the work that you're doing with your drones, right? So insurance is good and it's going to protect you, but it's only going to protect you up to a certain level. So you want that LLC coverage to protect you from people coming in and getting at your personal assets, and an LLC will help you do that. One of the things to keep in mind, though, and I don't know that this gets mentioned quite enough, is that you've got to be really careful to keep your personal expenses separated from your business expenses, because when you start to mix those and you start to run personal stuff through your business, well, a judge or the courts could look at that and say, does he really operate as an LLC? And then in that case, if you're running personal stuff through, that might open you up to making your personal assets exposed. So that is something to be very careful of. And that's something that's really difficult for new businesses to get used to, because people like to use the business card to do stuff. It's convenient. You can perhaps try to deduct more, which may or may not make it through an audit, by the way. Just something to think about. And, we've heard other people say, but aren't courts just going to pierce the veil of an LLC? And the reality is no. I mean, I think the courts it's been established that the courts are very willing to honor the veil that is an LLC. So I wouldn't worry about that. I think an LLC is definitely worth it, or some other form of entity that you're going to want to look at. So keep that in mind. One thing about LLCs, if you're looking at getting investors, if you think you're the kind of business that's going to grow down the road, an LLC may not be the best way, because investors, things like VC funds, or even people that might be investing through their own corporation, those kinds of things, an LLC is probably not going to be the best situation for them. So anyways, we have an LLC.
We do.
And
I've got a couple.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We all have got more than one, and they're very, very useful.
I do have one registered in Nevada, too.
Do you?
Yes.
All right. Why'd you do that?
Because I travel all over the country and the world and work, and it's just a lot easier, and I'm going to leave it at that.
Okay. So the next question, do I incorporate or establish my LLC, which, by the way, you're technically not incorporating if you're establishing an LLC, but do I do it in Delaware? Do I do it in Nevada? Do I do it in any other state?
Okay, so why are people asking that question? What are the benefits, Rob?
Well, they're asking that question because they hear, right? They've heard, they've read that it's a good idea. And the way he asked the question, again, was, are there benefits to doing that? Yes, there are benefits to doing that. So, for example, they have a judicial system that is more flexible and sort of on the side of business, if you will. So that's one reason. If you have to go to court for some reason, the idea or the thought is that you're going to be treated more fairly, or the system is going to maybe side with businesses more often than not in a place like that. So more flexible business law is one of the reasons for that. The other, of course, is state corporate income tax, if your company's formed there. You're not going to have to pay those in most cases. One of the things to keep in mind about that, though, so those are benefits, but it's going to be more costly to set up there. You're going to want to have a CPA and or an attorney who understands the laws of that particular state. So it's going to cost you more, which over the long run may be well worth it, but just know that going in. Some other things, no personal income tax. If you don't live there, you're not going to have to pay personal income tax there. And when I say there, I'm talking about either of those states. I think they're pretty much the same in both of those states. Another potential benefit is people that own shares of your entity that don't live in those states. It's going to maybe present some favorable tax advantages for them. So there are reasons to do it, but generally those reasons are going to be more beneficial to a larger entity, a large corporation. If for me personally, I wouldn't go through the trouble. And there's a situation like Paul where he's traveling all over the place and he knew he would be, and so he went ahead and set it up there because you had to have a base somewhere. So why not base it somewhere that's going to be more favorable? But if you're going to be living in wherever, Michigan, and most of your business is going to be in Michigan, probably not worth it. You're going to have to register in Michigan as a foreign entity anyways and report all of your income in Michigan and pay taxes according to their laws. And so I know I wouldn't mess with it if it were me. I would just go ahead and do it in the state that I live in for the kinds of things that I'm doing or the kinds of things that we're doing. But that could change.
Whoever said they want that whole flat tax, I don't remember if that was a libertarian thing or a Republican thing or Democrat thing or whatever, where it's just like in England where it's 10% of everything you buy. So you only pay tax on what you consume, not what you earn. I think it's really, really brilliant. I don't think it'll ever take hold in America because people aren't normally educated about economic policy. But if we had a flat tax where we just paid 10% or 20% even on everything and we had no income tax, no property tax, none of that, we just paid on what we consumed, it would simplify everything. Mm-hmm. And I feel like we would get more tax revenue out of it. Because, everyone shot Mitt Romney in the foot when in 2012 he was like, only 47% of Americans pay tax. That's true.
Yeah. No, it's very
Whether you
very
like to hear it or not, it's true.
Yeah.
So,
and most of the others are receiving as opposed to paying, right? So, no, that's very true. And anyways, I guess we can get into that a little bit because you brought it up. But yeah, one of the things I like about it is one of the things people are frustrated with is that they don't think the rich pay their fair share. Well, if it's based on consumption and the rich buy a $20 million yacht or whatever it is, they're going to have to pay that tax on that yacht. Right? So I think that can definitely bring some fairness into the tax code. But I'd be shocked if that happened.
It's funny that you mentioned that because this morning, I noticed that in Albuquerque, depending on where you are in the city, the same gas stations that are owned by the same people have different prices, and they fluctuate 10 to 20 cents based on location.
Yep.
So when people are like, oh, well, it's got to be fair, it's got to be equal, make sure you know what you're arguing about.
Yeah.
Because let me give you the flip side of the argument. Here at the office, gas is $2 a gallon. At UNM, it's $1.80. Why do I have to pay more? Because I'm in an area that technically makes more?
Yeah.
So I have to pay more? No. If it's going to be equal and fair, then we're all paying the same price for the same commodity.
Yeah. No, that's a very real thing that we see in Albuquerque, and I'm sure other communities see it as well.
So when people are like, I'm all about equal and fair, it's like, if you can explain market, economics to me and how markets function, I will listen to whatever you have to say.
Yeah.
But if you cannot explain to me the basics of market functionality, I don't want to hear a thing you have to say.
Let's
you just
talk about
shut your
the
mouth
weather.
now because you're going to dig a hole. It's going to be deeper than 6 feet, and I'll make sure of that. No, I'm kidding.
Oh, wow. Anyways, moving on. By the way, Rick also asked about quarterly taxes and those kinds of things. Yes, if you have an LLC, you're going to have to pay your quarterly estimates. There is sort of a return for federal purposes.
So
right?
Wait a minute. That's not true with every business. You can, because I know if you make a certain amount of income over time, then you do have to do quarterly, and I forget where that breaking point is.
You need to evaluate because in a lot of cases you're likely going to have some sort of quarterly liability. Now, there are rules such as if you pay in, there's a lot of rules that go along with that might make it so that you don't have to, but don't ignore that you may have to pay quarterly tax estimates. I mean, that's a very real part of your federal tax situation every year if you're self-employed, if you have an LLC, if you have a C Corp. It doesn't matter. They want to get that money as they go. That's why if you're a W-2 employee, they take it every paycheck, right? They want that money as they go.
Give me that
They don't
money.
want to wait till the end of the year, even though they do for part of it. But for example, if you don't pay your quarterly taxes and you should have, and you get to the end of the year and you owed them money for first, second, third quarters and didn't pay it, well, now you're also going to pay a penalty. So you need to be aware of that and pay those. And then, of course, locally speaking, it just depends on the county you live in, the city you live in, the state you live in. It's going to be different just about everywhere. So you'll have to talk to somebody who knows those laws close to where you're at and get that figured out.
Do you have
But
any good resources for that?
locally?
Well, not locally, but maybe any online resources to find more out about your tax scenario,
Off
situation,
the top
benefits?
of my head, I don't, but I would imagine if I spent 20 minutes Googling, I'd find a couple of different resources that would give us that information.
Gotcha.
So,
Gotcha.
yeah, I'm sure it's out there in probably many different forms. Check it out. But yeah, I mean, I think the bottom line is an LLC is generally a good way to go. If you don't know what you're doing, we would definitely suggest that you get with somebody who does, even though you can do it on your own relatively inexpensively. And when I say that, I mean like less than $150, a couple $100. You can do it pretty inexpensively. And the other thing we didn't even get into in this podcast, and we probably won't, is the whole single member LLC, which is kind of a different situation.
Because in different states, it could be determined as a sole proprietor as well.
Exactly.
Which is
It's-
New Mexico.
Yeah, New
And
Mexico
when New
is that
Mexico,
way, and
you
the
don't even
feds,
have
too.
to have a business license if you have a sole proprietorship. Did you know that?
Well, again, for a state business?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, but you're going to have a local business license, like for the city of Albuquerque. So you really need to be aware of what your local governmental entities are requiring you to have. And
See,
obviously-
okay, I hate to be the rebel teenager here, but even as our producer.
No, you don't. You love to be the rebel teenager.
Okay. What if you're doing mostly online services and you're floating around everywhere? What about local then?
You're still based somewhere.
Are you though? Because I don't think so. I have a lot of friends. Oh, Kirill, great example.
Yeah.
The editor on our book, great example. Jesse Tevlo, remember him?
Mm-hmm.
Another ghostwriter. Oh, Jason.
Mm-hmm.
The what's his name?
The what's his name?
The website designer for Drone U.
Yeah.
Those are 4 examples of people who do not have a home. They live all over the world. They live somewhere for a month or 2, and then they move on. And then they go somewhere new, and then they move on.
Yeah.
This is something that I've told you that I want to do in the upcoming future.
Well, and I can tell you they're still supposed to pay their federal and local taxes. How they figure out how to do that, that's up to them, and they can talk to their people about how to do that. But I don't think the people that we're talking to, most of them are going to be in that boat.
True. I guess my point was where business is physically done.
Yeah.
Because business that's physically done in a locality, that makes sense to me. But business that's done over the internet seems like a whole new...
It is a whole new thing. And I think we're all aware of kind of what a Pandora's box that is. And that's still kind of unfolding. And we're going to see what happens with all that and what the government does with... I mean, you buy stuff online now and
There's no tax.
Sometimes they tax you. It's
in
unusual.
In New York, there's tax on it.
But I've paid tax on things that I've purchased online.
Gotcha.
So obviously, if I'm paying taxes to them, they're taking that money, at least if they're doing what they're supposed to, and passing it on to whatever governmental entity they decide they owe, right? So anyways, it can get complex, but at the same time, keep it simple, protect yourself, and take the time and the effort to get these things set up. We did have somebody ask us, I don't know, I think it's just a question by email or something. Is it okay if I just start as a sole proprietor while I'm getting up and going? Well, of course it's okay. You can totally do that. Just know you're a little bit more exposed than if you went ahead and took the time and did an LLC or whatever other entity you decided was best, S Corp, whatever. So anyways, hope that's helpful, Rick. Guys, if you have a question, shoot it on in.
Please do. Go to askdroneu.com and upload those questions. And it's funny to see Rob over here talking as much as he is.
Golly, I'm
and
parched.
grabbing the water bottle. Oh, man.
That's why we do one of these every 50 episodes.
Oh, yeah. What about me? Anyway.
You're fine.
All right,
You're
guys.
young.
That's going to do it for us today. Yeah, I'm young, so I'll be okay later, right? I'll sleep when I'm dead?
Yep.
I'm dead when I sleep. Anyway. Guys, thank you so much for listening in. I really do appreciate it. And if you want to advance the industry like we do, through education, please give this podcast a share. And if you have a question, don't forget, askdroneu.com. That's going to do it for us today. My name is Paul.
I'm Rob.
This is Ask Drone U.